Hi everyone and welcome to your screencast on managing difficult conversations. So the quote on the front here says, "I know you think you understand what I thought I said, but I'm not sure you realise that what you heard is not what I meant." Oh, and apologies for the American spelling of realise there. I'll change that. So that's just something to say that sometimes you can totally misinterpret a conversation. So you can come away with a completely different message to the person that's given the message. You can see there's two people stood there, one sees a 6 and one sees a 9, and that's exactly what happens when conflict occurs. So the learning outcomes for this session is to increase your awareness of different communication styles, because there's a strong link between communication styles and conflict, raise an insight into your own communication style, and raise insight into how you deal and manage with conflict. So defining conflict. So obviously we'd have done this all together, but what I want you to do is just pause this screencast, and I want you just to spend a few minutes just writing images down of what conflict means to you. I want you to think about the emotions attached to conflict and how it makes you feel. So if you just pause it now and just spend a few moments just drawing, don't have to be on a flip chart, it can just be on a piece of paper, what conflict means to you. Okay, so you've all drawn your images now, and you'll have drawn different images. It'll be very personal to yourselves, and I want you just to reflect. Well, you'll have done some reflection, but reflecting and think about the image that you draw and what that might, what insight that might give you into how you deal with conflict. So, do we all deal with conflict in the same way? So absolutely not. So we've got people who might deal with conflict in quite an aggressive way. So this is this chap here. We've got people who avoid conflict. So there's the ostrich with the head in the stand. And then we've got people who deal with conflict assertively. So thinking about the thoughts and feelings and understanding. So there's a conflict mode model, and this was developed by someone called Thomas Kilmann, who also developed something called a drama triangle, which we're going to be looking at in a bit. So conflict is linked to assertiveness and also cooperativeness. So it's how assertive you are, but it's also how cooperative you are with other people. So people who are really assertive but not very cooperative, they fit into this bracket, and that's competing. So they would compete to win an argument, regardless of actually whether it's for the greater good. They just do it just for the sake of saying, I've won that argument. Then you've got people who aren't very assertive and not very cooperative, and they fit into this bracket, so that's avoiding. So they would avoid the conflict at all cost and just be the ostrich with the head in the sand. And we've got some people who are really cooperative but not very assertive, and they're the accommodating, so they're the people pleasers. By and large, people pleasers, trying to please everyone, don't end up pleasing anybody at all. And then in the middle we've got compromising, so people who are sort of not trying to please everyone, sort of meeting in the middle. And then this one here, collaborated. So really we want to fit in between these two, so compromising and collaborating. The collaborating one is sort of the most assertive one, so you're assertive but you're also cooperative. So there's two people there sort of communicating and compromising. You don't want to do too much compromising though, because then you might slip into the accommodating and the avoiding. So I'm going to send you an inventory test, and this inventory will help you discover how you deal with conflict. So it'll help you find whether you fit into the competing, collaborating, compromising, avoiding or accommodating. So once you've done that inventory, you'll have an idea as how you deal with conflict. So how we respond to conflict can be linked to our communication style. and I'm probably teaching you to suck eggs here, but there are 4 different styles of communication, so I thought it'd be good to refresh ourselves on what these styles of communication mean. So we've got passive aggressive, aggressive, passive and assertive. So passive aggressive, so you've got the little turtle in the shell hiding here. So passive aggressive people, passive communicators fail to assert themselves. They allow others to deliberately or inadvertently infringe on their rights. They fail to express their feelings, needs or opinions. Tend to speak quite softly or apologetically, oh, I'm sorry for this. Exhibit poor eye contact and a slumped body posture. Aggressive communicators, so these people will try to dominate. They use humiliation to control others. They criticise, blame or attack others, can be very impulsive, have a low frustration tolerance. They speak in a loud, demanding or overbearing voice, and they can act threateningly or rudely. They don't listen, interrupt and use you statements a lot. So passive aggressive communicator, that should be passive aggressive communicator, will often, in fact I'll just change that quickly, so it should be passive aggressive. So they often mutter themselves rather than confront the person or the issue. They have difficulty acknowledging their anger. They use facial expressions that don't match how they feel, so they'll smile at you when really they're not very happy at all with you. They can be very sarcastic, so they'll say, oh, that's good for someone like you. They deny there's a problem, so when you go to them and say, oh, I noticed that you were a bit off with me the other day, they'll say, oh, no, I'm fine, when really they're boiling inside. They appear cooperative while purposely doing things to annoy or disrupt, and they use subtle sabotage to get even. So they're your secret saboteurs, are the people that I find these the worst people to deal with, the hardest people to communicate with, and the ones that cause the most conflict. I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet for people who are passive aggressive. You can see this person, that's very oppressive, can't you see my excitement? They're just those people in meetings that just sort of sabotage everything that you're trying to do. So you've got assertive communicators. So this is what we all aspire to be. So these people will state their needs and wants clearly, appropriately and respectfully. They express feelings clearly, appropriately and respectively, use I statements. They communicate respect for others. They listen well without interrupting. They feel in control of themselves. Good eye contact. Speak calm, clear tone of voice. Relaxed body posture. They feel connected to others. They feel competent and in control. And they don't allow others to abuse or manipulate them, and they stand up for them rights. So there's a lovely mix there of thinking about themselves and others, and right in the middle there is assertiveness. So what we would have done together collaboratively as a group is think about where we all sit. And I'll be open and honest, I sat into the competing bracket when I very first did the Keelman's inventory, but I've really tried to adapt myself to sit more into the collaborating and compromising, because this one just doesn't work. It just makes people more and more frustrated and annoyed. So what I want you to do is think about where you sit and think about some steps that you might take to try and get into the other one. So if you want to pause the screencast again, just think where you are. If you're avoiding, how can you try and move into the collaborating? Might be linked to your assertiveness, might be linked to your cooperativeness with others. So people who are competing tend to fit in the aggressive communication bracket. People who are avoiding sit in the passive aggressive. People who are accommodating, passive. People who are assertive sit between the compromising but more towards the collaborative. So time to act it out. We would have done a scenario based role play here where you would have had an assertive, and I gave loads of I'd thought up a few scenarios here, sort of office based around people not sharing the workload, but maybe instead of this activity, maybe just again pause the screencast, think about a time that you've dealt with conflict And what I want you to do is think about how these people communicated and whether they communicated in a passive aggressive or assertive communication. So the last thing I wanted to introduce you to is something called the drama triangle. So within this, it's a theory if there's 3 people usually, or numerous people playing these roles for conflict to exist. So you've got the persecutor, rescuer and the victim. So the persecutor is generally the person who is being blamed or seen as the one that's causing the drama. You've got the victim, who's normally the one saying, "Oh, well, this person's done this to me and I feel helpless and out of control." Then you've got the rescuer who steams in and says, "Don't worry, I'll sort it out." So what you've got to do is, when you're involved in any kind of drama, you've got to reflect back and think about the role that you're playing within the drama. So if you think back to the scenarios that you've just done, think about who was playing these roles, but more importantly, think about the role that you were playing. Were you playing the victim? Were you playing the rescuer? Or were you playing the persecutor? And what normally is the case, it's this person, the rescuer, that needs to remove themselves from the triangle to allow these 2 people to speak like adults and have an adult-to-adult conversation, so they don't feel like a victim and they're not the persecutor anymore. So in a nutshell, that is what I was going to do with you. There's going to be a lot more, obviously, like conversations and interactions between us all. If you want to know more about it, there's some good books on the dreaded drama triangle, which I'll send through to you along with the inventory that I'm going to send. But I hope that's been helpful. I hope you feel like it's raised your awareness of different communication style. Hopefully if you do the inventory, it'll raise your own insight into communication style and also how you deal and manage with conflict. Thank you.